Thank you.
What would be the overall categories that your company would invest in?
Yeah, at Illuminate Ventures, we have a focus on early stage software and internet companies primarily. I will define that a little further because that's a pretty broad definition, but within the software world, we tend to focus on companies that might be in the software as a service category, companies that have a real-time analytics component to them, frequently companies that are delivering their product or services in the cloud. And if you think about what some of the common themes in even that grouping are, they have to do with companies that may be targeting either consumers or business customers, by the way, not strictly B2B or B2C, but they also have the ability, most of them, to build their initial offering very capital efficiently. They're leveraging, the companies we target are typically leveraging open source technology, cloud computing, some new capabilities that exist today that simply didn't exist even 5 years ago, and that is where the real-time analytics component may come in. Mm-hmm. Most of them have some relatively deep underlying technology, even if they're an application. Right?
Thank you for that. What do you look for in women entrepreneurs and startups that indicate interest that you would have in investing in their businesses? Because I know that you are focused on women entrepreneurs and startups, is that correct?
What we actually do, the way I would describe it, is that we have a very inclusive deal flow strategy. We open the door wider. We don't close the door to anyone. Mm-hmm. If you look at our investments, half of them have women co-founders involved and half of them don't. Right. That number, however, is an order of magnitude higher than our peers in the industry. And so how did that come about? It came about because we really do open the door very wide to look at all of the really great opportunities out there. That means including women entrepreneurs, but it absolutely does not mean excluding male entrepreneurs.
Got it.
So the data we've seen is very compelling to show that teams that are made up of diversity and gender outperform. They have more innovation, they have creative ways of doing things, they learn from one another and leverage that. And so we're enthusiastic about that, but we don't exclude an opportunity for that reason at all.
And just going back to the original question, and thanks for clarifying your process, because I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you feel that women entrepreneurs that do come to you need to have due to the challenges that they may face more than, say, men?
I don't think for us,
yep.
For our firm, a woman entrepreneur has to do anything differently than a male entrepreneur does. I mean, really anything.
Okay.
There may be other environments where they do,
right.
But part of what we pride ourselves in is providing that level playing field, giving women not only an opportunity to come in the door, but to be evaluated with exactly the same criteria. And our investment criteria is completely gender neutral. I'm not sure if everyone can say that, but I know ours is. Mm-hmm. And so our expectations are not that the woman has to be better or that she has to prove herself at a higher level, but our bar is high for everyone.
Of course, otherwise it's not a good investment.
Right.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks for clarifying that. As you know, my background is in the online dating industry, and I know there's often advice for pitching for venture, because of course I've been doing that over 5 years, is often correlated with dating. Mm. And I wondered what sort of chemistry makes for a good match between a venture capitalist and an entrepreneur.
It's a great question, and I think chemistry is really important. When you are an entrepreneur, and I think I've been on both sides of the table. I've been a founder, CEO, raising capital, and now I've had the good fortune to be an investor deploying capital. But when you're on the side of the table where you're the one raising capital, you have to be really, really aware that the people who are your investors are also your board. They are the CEO, the founders report to the board. And so it's not exactly like dating, because I hopefully in most relationships it's not the man or the woman who's in charge. It's a little bit more, of a peer relationship. But effectively, a board doesn't have many jobs other than to hire and fire the CEO, right?
Yes,
and so as a founder CEO in particular, you're looking at that person and you're assessing, do we have the same goals? Do we see the world in the same way? Do we have, a common set of aspirations for this company? If what I see is that I want to take this company public, and that's going to require $20 or $30 million of financing to get there over time, but my investors don't see it the same way, that's a problem from day one. Mm-hmm. If, on the other hand, I look at it and I say, I think there's the opportunity for that IPO, but I want to really be a little conservative in terms of how much money we put into the company early on, so that we still preserve the option of a nice M&A exit that will satisfy my investors and me as a founder. Again, you want alignment of goals between you and your investors. I strongly recommend that any entrepreneur interview and screen and reference check their investors in the same way that the investor is doing that with them. I encourage them to call not just the entrepreneurs whose boards those investors may currently sit on, but prior ones, including those that failed, yes. And ask the questions, the hard questions. What happened when the company was failing? Yes. How did that board member interact with you? Did they sit across the table and ask you, what are you going to do about it? Or did they reach across the table and say, what can I do to help? What are we going to do about it? And there's a huge difference there. And it's very important for you to know who your investors are.
That's brilliant advice, and nice and pragmatic, and gives a good foundation to the entrepreneur.